Good morning, world. Those wonderful folks at Atheist Community of Austin are proud to bring you Austin's only live atheist chat, the Atheist Experience, with today's guest, Russell Glasser, here to discuss atheists on the web here. And our co-host here, Martin Wagner, with this week's news. And then we go on to our host, Jeff D. Take it away, Jeff.
Thanks, Ray. Morning, folks.
Morning, folks.
Morning.
Welcome to the Atheist Experience. This show is brought to you by the Atheist Community of Austin, a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state. Our group has weekly meetings Sunday mornings at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop at 307 West 5th Street at 10:30 a.m. right after the show, except for the first Sunday of each month when we have our lecture series at 11 a.m. at Fur's Cafeteria at North Cross Mall. Our next lecture will be taking place on April 2nd. ACA board meetings take place at noon right after our regular meeting on the second Sunday of every month. These meetings are open to all ACA members, but you can only vote if you're on the board of directors. This month's board meeting takes place today. For more information, call our voicemail at 371-2911 or visit our website at www.atheist-community.org. You can also watch our show on the internet by setting your browser to spring.net. So tell your friends, relatives, co-workers, and any other atheist-friendly people that you know that they can watch our show from outside of Austin by doing that. And if you are watching us from outside of Austin, you can call and talk on our show. The number is area code 512-472-2255. And if you are calling long distance, make sure to tell our call screener so we can get you on the air right away.
Right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
How you guys doing?
Pretty good.
Everybody have a good week?
Yes, we did.
Do
I
anything
did.
cool and exciting?
Nah, saw a bunch of movies mostly.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Very bad
Contact was
films
on
this
last
week,
night.
but,
Very
on TV.
good. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
So-
film.
But apart from that, apart from being a bad movie week, otherwise it was a good week.
My wife and I drove up to Brownwood, which is like 3 hours north of town on 183, to search out the grave of fantasy author Robert E. Howard, who created Conan the Barbarian.
And?
we found his grave.
All right.
There he was, buried alongside his mother and father in the Brownwood, in a cemetery in Brownwood, the name of which escapes me at the moment. But they have an historical marker there, and it's very cool.
Must be an inspiring moment.
Well, you know, the guy entertained the heck out of me as a kid, so it,
Yeah.
you know,
You
it was
deserve something.
it was a meaningful experience for me.
All right.
Not for him, of course. He's
No.
dead.
Well, right.
Okay.
Had
so
he not been dead, he would have
had
probably...
he not been dead, I don't know.
Yeah, might have appreciated. Thank you for coming to see me. I'm not dead yet, but, you know, it's still meaningful.
That's right.
There you go.
It didn't take that much explanation. So why don't you
It's
jump
early,
straight
folks.
into news?
Jumping into news. Okay, I can do that. Let's see. What do we start with? Well, let's start. Well, let's always get the bad news first, shall we? So, good morning, everyone. It's Sunday, March 11th, 2000, or 2000
March
if your name
12th.
is 12th.
March 12th today.
You're right. It's March 12th. March 12th, 2000 CE, or 2000 if your name is Ray Blevins. And today, according to a poll, creationism has supports. Majority of Americans say they want biblical account taught with Darwin's theory, survey shows. An overwhelming majority of Americans think that creationism should be taught along with Darwin's theory of evolution in the public schools, according to a new nationwide survey by an independent polling organization. Some scientists characterize this seemingly contradictory findings as a quixotic attempt by the American public to accommodate incompatible worldviews. But in some ways, even as Americans continue to argue over what children should learn about human origins, the poll offers encouragement to both sides in the debate. The poll results were released Friday by the People for the American Way Foundation, the liberal civil rights organization that commissioned the study. It was based on extensive interviews with 1,500 Americans drawn representatively from all segments of society across the country. In results emphasized by the foundation, the poll found that 83% of Americans generally support the teaching of evolution in public schools. But the poll, which had a statistical margin of error of 2.6 percentage points, also found that 79% of Americans think that creationism has a place in the public school curriculum, though respondents often said that the topic should be discussed as a belief rather than as a competing scientific theory. As for evolution, almost half of the respondents said that the theory, quote, is far from being proven scientifically, and 68% said it was possible simultaneously to believe in evolution and also that God created humans and guided their development. Part of what it shows is that there is a broad public support for the teaching of evolution in public school science classes, and that for many people this does not represent any conflict with their religious views, said Dr. James B. Miller of the Program of Dialogue on Science, Ethics, and Religion at the American Association for the Advancement of Science. Daniel Yankelovich, chairman of DYG Inc., the polling and market research firm that performed the study, said that the public's sense that creationism and evolution are compatible translates in a pluralistic society and public to there being a place for both. Quote, it is logically inconsistent both to believe in the theory of evolution that humans did descend from animals and to believe the opposite, that they were created in their present form, said Harvard University evolutionary biologist David Haig. Despite scientific evidence for an Earth that is billions of years old and fossils that indicate some species evolving into others, the strictest creationists believe in a literal reading of Genesis. Then they must not be aware that there are actually 2 creation accounts in Genesis. But, that the universe, Earth, and all the planet species were created a few thousand years ago in essentially their present forms. Only about a third of the respondents in the poll, though, defined creationism in this way. Others said they understood it more loosely as referring to gods having created humans, but not necessarily as described in the Bible. People unclear on the exact meaning were read a definition based on the looser version and were told that creationism was sharply in conflict with standard evolutionary theory. The debate that was started 75 years ago in the Scopes trial was reignited last year when the Kansas School Board voted to remove most references to evolution from state education standards. Last month, a Rochester, New York charter school drew criticism when officials there said creationism would be taught as an alternative to evolution. So I guess next would be flat Earth theory as an alternative to contemporary geology. Or
Sure. Well, we should teach the Norse story that the first man and woman were licked out of a block of ice by a giant cow.
Sounds good to me. Yeah. That's the Far Side theory, right? Gary Larson's obsession with cows.
No, Gary Larson had nothing to do with it. The Norse
I'm just saying, I'm
people
surprised.
really believed that. That was their creation story.
I'd like to make a quick comment on this. I think that this whole issue is kind of self-perpetuating because adults aren't educated themselves on evolution. Mm-hmm. And the less you know about evolutionary theory, the more you think it's actually a controversial scientific issue, when in fact most scientists just take it as a given. So the less we teach evolution in schools, the less people understand it, and the more controversial they think it is, and that just sort of feeds on itself.
Yeah, I mean, when you know what it's all about, then you say, oh, well, it works just fine. Yeah, there's no...
Sure.
Yeah. Anyway, just to wrap up, the Columbus, Ohio Dispatch on Friday reported that the Young Earth Creation Club is objecting to the inclusion of evolution in new science standards issued by the Ohio School Board. Wonder what their parties are like. It's a perfect example of how this fight has never gone away, said Nancy Coleman, a spokeswoman for People for the American Way. So superstition marches on well into the 21st century, apparently. Yeah. Pretty sad. But anyway, let's get more amusing here, shall we? Vegetarian Antichrist is walking among us. Yes. The leading conservative contender to succeed the Pope yesterday said that the Antichrist was already on Earth in the guise of a prominent philanthropist whose concern for human rights and the environment and advocacy of ecumenicism masks his real aim, the destruction of Christianity and, quote-unquote, the death of God. What a guy. Cardinal Giacomo Biffi, age 71, the Archbishop of Bologna, said the Antichrist was not the beast with 7 heads described in the book of Revelation, but a, quote, fascinating personality whose outward charm and plausibility had deceived his enemies. Cardinal Biffi, not to be confused with Cardinal Howdy Doody, said the Antichrist espoused vegetarianism, pacifism, environmentalism, and animal rights. So I guess this means that appropriate Catholic values would be cheeseburgers, war, pollution,
this guy's a Catholic?
And kicking your cat.
I thought the Catholics are like way past all this kooky stuff. I thought it was fundamentalist.
Evidently no. Well, it goes on.
Baptist types that believed all this kooky.
Well, Yeah, Cardinal.
According to fundamentalists, the Antichrist is a Catholic.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Cardinal Biffy also identified the Antichrist as an expert on the Bible, who nonetheless promotes, quote, vague and fashionable spiritual values rather than the scriptures. He advocates ecumenical dialogue between the Roman Catholic Church and other Christian denominations, including Anglicanism and the Orthodox Church. This appeared to be a worthy aim, but was in fact being used by the Antichrist in an attempt to water down and undermine Catholicism to the point where it collapsed.
I love this, the paranoia inherent in this stuff. Oh, we can't have like, you know, any
good stuff,
concern about our environment. We can't have any concern about world peace. We talked about that story last week with the Bob Jones University. Their reason for disallowing interracial dating was that it would bring the races closer together, promoting world peace, and that heralds the arrival of the Antichrist. Well, when things go good,
well, it's
religious
specifically
people jump up and down and go, "Oh, that means that the Antichrist is about to be here."
Well, specifically,
which is like completely kooky.
when things
and when
go
things
good,
go bad, they spin that and say, "Well, that's why you need more of what we got."
Yeah. Well, see, it's when things go good that they don't have anything to do with. And then it's like almost a jealousy thing. They're like, no, they don't want anybody doing good things that isn't a Christian. They want all of the good stuff that goes on in the world to be directly accreditable to Christianity.
And now this guy is complaining about the Catholic Church having a dialogue with other Christian denominations because it waters down true Catholicism. That is so cool. I'm glad that this kind of belief leads them to compartmentalize and divide themselves up into these little interest groups that won't work together, because that is our only chance.
Yes. But wait, there's more, Jeff. Cardinal Biffy did not say whether he had any particular world figure in mind, and his real target seemed to be the substitution of quote-unquote feel-good causes, such as ecology and humanitarian aid, for quote-unquote true religion, aka dogmatic authoritarianism.
Right. No, not actual concern and actual efforts to improve things, but dogma.
Yes, his remarks appear to mark out part of the conservative agenda ahead of the next conclave to elect a pope. The physical decline of Pope John Paul II, age 79, has sparked off jostling for position among the cardinals who stand to replace him. But power-hungry priests have never new one on me.
Man.
Yeah. Cardinal Biffy.
Would you stop doing that?
I just like doing it.
Come on, the guy's an idiot. You don't have to say his name funny.
Was speaking at a conference in Bologna on the work of Vladimir Solovyov, 1853 to 1900, the Russian philosopher and mystic, whom he praised as a forgotten prophet who had lucidly foreseen the horrors of the 20th century. I wonder if he lucidly foresaw Cardinal Biffy. In his last writings, the cardinal said Solovyov had predicted the rise of the Antichrist after a century of bloodshed, wars, revolution, and the breakdown of the nation state. I did a Yahoo search on Vladimir Solovyov.
Yeah.
And found just like this internet encyclopedia listing form and read it. And for the most part, it seemed that he was just another wacky guy with wacky ideas about the end of the world and other wacky stuff. It's not really any more interesting or intelligent than any other. But one thing that I found was interesting was, according to this listing for him, it said that Solovyov wanted to see what it termed as a universal theocracy, which implies that what he wanted was a reconciliation between the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church, which is exactly what Cardinal Biffy says the Antichrist wants.
No.
So,
there's two ways. There are two ways to achieve a universal church. One is to make amends and sort of water it down so that there aren't any differences, which is what this guy's Cardinal Biffy is complaining about.
Right. Yeah.
And the other way is to take over and make everybody be one of you.
No, I'm just relating what I read in this encyclopedia listing, which presumably was written before Cardinal Biffy came out and made a statement.
It makes me wonder if he foresaw the horrors of the internet.
Might have been. Who knows?
Foresaw the horrors of people being able to actually look into this stuff for their own themselves.
Anyway, weird.
So what else? What do you got next?
Well, just the California Bar's gay marriage report.
Okay, let's do that.
We'll do that first.
Yeah.
This is from ABC News Online. From Los Angeles. Laura and Rachel have some of the protections of a married couple, but they'd like to have all of them, now that they've adopted 2-year-old Talia. I would like the ability, said Laura Weinstock, to have the equal benefits and protections of marriage and respect. But that's not likely to happen soon. California voters have passed Proposition 22, a measure which says the state will recognize as valid only marriages between a man and a woman. In the heated campaign over the measure, opponents charged Proposition 22, quote, would legalize discrimination against gay and lesbian families, according to one political advertisement. They raised almost $6 million with the help of celebrities in an effort to defeat the amendment. But Proposition 22 advocates say the measure isn't about discrimination. They maintain it's about closing a legal loophole to prevent gays and lesbians from ever being able to marry somewhere else and have the marriage recognized in California, which sounds like discrimination to me. So
yeah,
weird
discrimination.
double talk going on here. They point to Vermont, where they fear lawmakers have moved one step closer to legitimizing gay marriage. For religious conservatives, the issue of same-sex marriage has become so emotionally charged and threatening, keyword there, threatening, that in many places around the country, gay marriage has replaced abortion as the #1 concern on their social agenda. Influential evangelical leader James Dobson, who incidentally has written a book advocating corporal punishment of children, told his 5 million radio listeners the vote to restrict marriage to a man and a woman would have profound national consequences. He said on his radio broadcast, quote, if it fails, the institution of family is going to be damaged forever.
What the heck is he talking about?
Where he gets that from, I have no idea.
That's really
if
odd.
I could, let's see, I'm a straight guy. I could either marry a woman or marry a man. Well, why would I marry a man?
Yeah.
And what does that option have to do with whether my marriage works or not?
Right.
It has nothing to do with anything.
And what does gender preference, sexual preference, have to do with being a competent parent?
I'm sure it has something to do with it, but not so much that we need to outlaw it. And it's like, I mean, if we wanted to track down, if we wanted to examine people on a case-by-case basis and say whether they could be parents or not, we could do that.
Yeah, I mean,
right?
that's the point.
We could evaluate each person individually, and I'm sure we would find some people that are being parents now that are no good at it.
Yeah, well, that's the point I'm trying to make.
It is certainly not true that, the assumption that, like, 2 gay men can't raise a child,
or 2 gay women, or
and do a decent job of it. That is absolutely clearly not true.
Yeah.
I think that it's particularly interesting that they've positioned this as a bigger issue than abortion, because if you're against abortion, your rationale is that abortion is killing something.
Right.
Now it's worse for 2 men to get married than to commit murder, at least in their eyes.
Well, it's because I read a different article on that same thing, and I should have brought it in, but I was a fool.
Well, there's a little more to go with this.
Well, let me segue into my thing. This other article I read quoted a Republican political figure, not one of the big ones, one I recognize, but he was going, well, and I'm paraphrasing now. He was saying, we have to make gay marriage illegal, because if we let 2 men or 2 women marry, then next we'll have, say, polygamists coming to us and saying, well, I've got these 2 wives. Why, that's illegal now? Based on what? Was this guy's quote, right?
Yeah.
Well, ignoring for a second the fact that polygamy has already been through this whole thing, right? And it happens to not be illegal, and I don't know why he thinks that can of worms is going to be opened up again, just because the marriage between two people of the same sex are allowed. But the question, based on what, is the question. That is exactly the right question that everybody ought to be asking. Based on what? Why is it that in this country that marriage is considered 1 man, 1 woman, period? Right? Yeah. Well, that's because we've inherited it from the religious beliefs of the masses of people that populate this country. Right? That's why. And where do they get it from? Well, they pulled it out of their ass. The Bible, in the Old Testament, is full of
incest,
not gay marriage, but full of polygamy.
Yeah.
Ton of it. It's full of incest, which is creepy enough.
Yeah, and fathers sleeping with daughters and daughters-in-law, and daughters seducing their father, and
And yet they think
and God wanting this to happen because He wants a certain baby to be born.
And yet they think that there is a clear moral message in that book that says marriage is 1 man, 1 woman, period. Well, there isn't a clear message like that from the Bible, and even if there was, then they'd be saying that morality is this thing that gets handed down to us by this cosmic space pixie that created everything that we believe in.
Well, that is what they say.
So, based on what? Well, that.
Yeah.
And that's completely ridiculous. If there are reasons, if there are practical reasons why marriage should be one man, one woman, period, then let's hear those. The whole concept embodied in this guy's quote that what we need to do is pass this law in California so that there will be no further discussion, right? So that nobody will ask these questions and wonder why and wonder whether we could in fact get along with a different way of doing things, right? It's just shows the way that religion is being used. That politics is being used, that the law is being used to institutionalize these completely goofy, supernaturally based assumptions.
All right.
Your child has come under the influence of the evil spirits of seducing homosexuality that were surrounding this other young lad.
Yeah.
That's the mentality we're looking at. Those are the mindset. Anyway.
Yes, based on what? Yeah, ask that. Everybody should be asking that.
And also,
are our laws there to help maintain a society that works and provides everybody the maximum amount of freedom, balanced by the maximum amount of legal protection? Or are they there because some guys who happened to have this supernaturally based assumption happened to vote them into law?
And also, any Christian who wants to use the New Testament as some sort of basis that, Jesus was not, as far as my readings of the Gospels have revealed, the most pro-family guy around. He repeatedly would tell his disciples, you cannot love your mother and father more than me. He would tell them to leave their mother and fathers, to hate them. One disciple, didn't he say, Jesus, my father's died, I need to go bury him, and Jesus basically told him to, let the dead bury their dead, forget him, you're coming with me now, I'm more important. So that doesn't exactly sound like a pro-family platform to me, but let me
and in fact, Jesus says at one point that you can't be a holy person if you're married. Right?
That's right. Something to that effect.
He said, there's reasons why
I don't have
Quakers believed what they believed.
Yeah, I don't have that exact quote right here, but I have quite a lot from. Let me see. According to Matthew 19:29, apparently, abandon your wife and children for Jesus, and He'll give you a big reward.
Yeah, that's not the one I'm quoting. He literally says basically have nothing to do with women. If you want to be a holy person, have nothing to do with women. There's a reason why Catholic priests don't get married.
And in the book of Revelation, the 144,000 people who are going to be saved are only going to be people who have not, quote unquote, defiled themselves with women.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Lust is the beast within you.
Well, but that's a good thing.
The beast that wants to consume you and then spit you out into the eternal fires of hell.
That was overly melodramatic even for one of those guys.
No, that's not one of those guys. That's
all eternity, your flesh will be ripped from your body by...
you tell him. Could have fooled me.
Come on, finish it.
Yeah.
As serpents with razor-sharp teeth. Where for all eternity your blood will boil, your bones will burn, and your marrow will be reduced to a putrid black slime!
Wait a minute, isn't that guy from The Princess Bride?
Yes, that's the guy from The Princess Bride.
Okay.
I forget the name of the movie.
It wouldn't be Leap of Faith, that's Steve Martin.
That's not Leap of Faith.
Yeah.
It's something about a Catholic boys' school. We have some callers.
Let me just wrap up the lap of this, because it does, now the article goes directly into the religious influence. Some Protestant and Jewish groups joined the opposition to Proposition 22, but Catholics, Mormons, and Evangelicals, who make up more than 40% of the state's population, raised millions of dollars to pass the amendment. It's time for us to take a stand in favor of what God planned, says one pastor. Read the Old Testament.
Prove that God exists. What?
Yeah.
First, prove that God exists.
Yes.
Then come to us and tell us what He said.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then tell us
that those were in fact the things that He said.
And that we need to make laws based on that.
Based on what?
Yeah. In many churches, members are so concerned about gay marriage, they've entered the political arena for the first time. Now here's what gets me about this, and I know we're digressing again, but not really. There are Christians out there, particularly in the fundamentalist camp, who literally consider it threatening to marriage, to straight marriage, to conventional marriage, for the gays to get married. How does two gay men or two gay women getting married threaten your marriage in any way?
Well,
how is that a threat?
Of course, you're going to see them and think, maybe I should marry a man.
What was that? That's the whole idea. Some evangelical, I do not remember his name, and I read this maybe secondhand in some sort of news article, said something to the effect that the reason, he said the reason that Christianity had to demonize homosexuality 24/7 was because, according to him, homosexuality, if they didn't do that, homosexuality provides too attractive of an option. Which is basic, and this evangelical is coming out essentially admitting I wish I knew the guy's name. I'm sorry I don't know his name. But that's essentially admitting to the world you're a closet case. And that could be what a lot, and of course gay people say, well, that's what a lot of homophobia is. It's this repressed homosexuality that they're afraid of. But how? I mean, how is it? I was married, you're married right now, we're straight. How does gay people getting married threaten us in any way at all? How does that provide a threat?
It doesn't. I have more to say on the subject. We've got to take a call.
Okay, let's go ahead and take Tom first, and then we'll get back on this. But weird.
Hello, Tom? Wait.
Yeah,
Tom?
that'd be me.
Hello,
Hi.
Tom.
How are y'all doing today?
We're all
Good, how are
right.
you?
Let me get right to the question. Back in approximately 82, a church that I went to due to peer pressure and just out of boredom, there was a guest speaker. I suppose he was on the local church tour or whatever, but he claimed to be the son of the at-time atheist leader, the one that is no longer accounted for.
Madeline Murray O'Hare had a son who became a fundamentalist preacher.
I remember him. Okay, so
it might well have been him.
This guy definitely existed, that he wasn't just a poser.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, she has a Christian son.
I guess I can say I've met him. He made quite a transformation. What is the purpose of the y'all's organization, the Atheist Community?
Well, as we say in the opening thing, the Atheist Community of Austin is a non-profit educational organization promoting positive atheism and the separation of church and state.
And also, the organization essentially exists also as an outreach to atheists in the community. Mm-hmm. We do live in an overwhelmingly religious and particularly Christian nation, and it's a culture in which people who don't believe in God are made to, much like gays, you're made to feel marginalized. And it's not like a persecution complex, but you are made to essentially feel as if you're wrong and a bad person if you don't believe in God. And this is and you kind of have to be in the closet too, in many ways. It's a very weird thing to have to admit to people that you don't believe in God. And so this is an opportunity for atheists to essentially meet each other and get to know each other and realize there are more of us out there. And so it serves a social function that's very good for us.
That's a very good description of that. What do you think of the Ten Commandments? Would you say, okay, let's get
Which
past
set?
Okay, I understand what you're saying there. Would you say that is a good set of rules to govern humanity to a degree?
No.
Well, the first four. The first four of, the 10 that are generally accepted, the first four are direct instructions to believe in the Christian God, and obey Him. So obviously we don't agree with those. Now, in terms of don't kill people, don't lie to people, sure, those are good moral, ethical rules. But we don't feel that it's necessary to have a supernatural basis for such rules. What do you think, Jeff?
It's not only not necessary, it can't possibly work. I mean, rationally speaking, you can't say morality is this thing dictated by this more powerful guy. Because then the question arises, where did he get it from? And either morality is a thing that is true no matter what God thinks, in which case the God is subordinate to some higher power, and what's that? Or else morality is whatever this more powerful dude thinks, in which case it's completely arbitrary. Right? I mean, if that God said it would be okay to go out and kill people, then it would be okay to go out and kill people if that's the kind of system under which we get our morality. Morality, the only way it could possibly work is if it's human beings living together who are trying to coexist in a society say this kind of behavior works and promotes the sort of society we want to have, and this doesn't, so we're going to say this is the good kind of behavior and that's the bad kind of behavior on that basis. And some of the things in the Ten Commandments are, sort of reasonably okay from that point of view, but the other ones are ridiculous.
Okay, getting past the God aspect of the Bible, would you agree that it's been written throughout time by maybe philosophers, prophets, maybe artists and musicians, or whatever?
Mass murderers.
Sort of like an owner's manual on what they believe human life should be.
Yeah, I'm afraid so.
Yeah, that would seem to be the case. It was written.
The problem is, check out that Old Testament.
Yeah.
I mean, what a lot of those people who were writing this thought that life should be like is, you take your gang of guys and you go over to the next city and massacre the next gang of guys and take all their stuff.
Yeah, okay, we have records of Julius Caesar and Cleopatra. Would you agree that they did exist as human beings?
We have independent historical documents. We have a multitude of those documents to confirm that those characters existed.
Okay, now I understand the alleged...
And we actually have their own writings, too. I mean, well, not Cleopatra, but Caesar himself has written several books that some of his manuscripts are extant to this day. Mm-hmm. Particularly like his accounts of his war campaigns.
And I know the alleged life of Jesus Christ was such a small factor in the possible uprising of the Jewish against the Roman atrocity that was happening at the time. Is there any other documents that was actually supposedly Jesus was actually persecuted at that time?
Independent confirmation of Jesus' existence, there is nothing.
Yes, there was
absolutely nothing. The closest thing.
You have to figure he was such small. If he did exist, he was such small time that the Roman government wouldn't want to talk about that. They would just rather let that matter die.
Yeah, Christianity really became what it was, not really as a result of anything Jesus did, but it was the efforts of Saul of Tarsus.
Okay, let me ask you one more question.
And his efforts.
Have either three of you ever had a supernatural experience that defies all explanation of physics and anything you can think of? Or have you ever had a friend that you totally trust in? Someone you totally can believe in. Has ever had anything happen to them?
You want to start, Jeff?
I guess you can say from the other side.
The first thing you gotta... the simple answer is no. The more complicated answer is that I know that human beings are capable of misinterpreting things, of hallucinating, optical illusions. There's all kinds of ways that we can seem to experience things that aren't really what they seem to be to us. So my standard of evidence is pretty darn high for those kinds of things. I mean, and as far as friends who had those things, I hang out. I tend to choose to hang out with people who understand that human beings have these limitations to like direct knowledge of supernatural things, right? That you got to be really careful about what you accept as truth. You got to look for independently verifiable evidence and not just go by word of mouth.
I understand.
And in my experience, first off, the answer is no. I have not personally had what I would consider to be a supernatural experience. But I come from a religious family, and my grandmother, with whom I was very close, was profoundly religious. And she often described to me, like, for example, situations in which she... one of my uncles had a terrible automobile accident, and she said that when this happened, she woke up one morning and she saw someone in her room, and she believed it was an angelic visitation. Well, my answer was that it was either a hypnagogic or hypnopompic hallucination, which are the same things, where you kind of wake up, you're awake, but you're still not fully awake, and you're still sort of in a dream state. People, as Jeff said, will interpret, and bizarre things happen to you in life, but people interpret these things supernaturally, first off, because we are the products of our culture. And when you have a culture that is as embroiled in supernaturalism as ours is, not just religion, but also, for example, like people who believe they've been abducted by UFOs and that sort of thing. When these stories are circulating in any human culture, you're going to be affected by them. And so if you were to have a strange
and let's just say hallucinatory circumstance where maybe you were half asleep but something weird happened and you thought you saw a little guy walking around the room, that you would, because of the influence that your culture has upon you, might think, oh, it's one of those big-headed, big-eyed aliens, and I've been visited by... so it's common for people to have those sort of misinterpretations of things that happen to them that they can't explain. They simply latch on to the easy explanation that cultural influence has provided them.
Then I guess the theory of reincarnation's out the window, huh?
Well, the idea with that would be, first off, what did those, where did those spirits do between inhabiting bodies? Did they just sort of float around the ceiling and hang out there, or?
It's all a mind trip made to hoard the masses. That's all it is.
Yeah, I think reincarnation is a superstition that's actually based upon egomania gone rampant. People who want to believe that they used to be some great Roman senator or, Mata Hari or something like that. They want to insert themselves into history somehow. I think that's a lot.
You almost never hear anybody talking about reincarnation and saying, oh, in my past life I was a brutal, I was a pathetic, trodden-on peasant.
Right, or a brutal axe murderer.
Yeah,
or
something interesting, I saw there was an interesting little feature a few months ago. There's a great show, if you get cable, is it still on? Cable channel 34, which is the Fox Family Channel, on Tuesday nights at 9. Interestingly, right before the 700 Club, there's a program called Exploring the Unknown, which takes a skeptical approach to paranormal claims.
And its schedule is kind of erratic now.
Okay.
It's like there sometimes and not there some other times, and I'm not sure why.
Okay, final question for you guys.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you believe there is life out in the distant galaxy universe that our mind can't even fathom?
Okay, what do you mean by the word believe?
Believe as in accept, maybe believe description.
Well, okay, here's the reason I ask is because when Christians say they believe God exists, what they mean is absolutely for sure to the bottom of their, I don't want to say soul because I don't believe in those. They're absolutely fixated on insisting that is true.
But they believe in the possibility.
Yes, I think it's entirely possible. It doesn't violate any laws of physics that I'm aware of.
And would you think any of that life has visited Earth in any form?
I think it's incredibly unlikely.
The fact is, if there are any world that may have evolved life similar to ours, or actually it would have to be more technologically advanced than ours to have reached us, still they are so far away from us that the likelihood of first they're finding us and then they're actually getting here is vanishingly small because of the distance that it would take to travel and the literally tens of thousands of years, if not longer, it would take them to get here.
Okay,
and then what do? They just go and
they mutilate our cows.
They land on a farm and they mutilate a cow and then they go home. I mean,
aliens. Oh God, aliens. Your explanation for anything slightly peculiar is aliens, isn't it? You lose your keys, it's aliens. A picture falls off the wall, it's aliens.
Okay, that's going in, I guess that would be going in the conventional realm of thinking, but let's say maybe going in the twilight zone here, but things that our mind couldn't even comprehend and travel and...
what about them?
Yeah, if our mind can't comprehend them, what's the point of discussing them?
What about those things?
If you can't comprehend them, then you really don't have any basis for talking about them. Yeah. So, all
right.
So
okay,
hopefully...
Thanks for the phone call, guys.
Hey, thanks for calling and call back sometime.
Thanks.
Take care.
Don't know if that last caller was an atheist. We never got around to asking him. But if you are or are atheist friendly, you're invited to come down to sit with us at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop at near the corner of 5th and Lavaca at 10:30 right after the show. We've got a bunch of callers who have been on the line for a while, but I really want to get to you.
Oh, well, thank you.
But one of the callers is Joe, who's calling. I know he's calling long distance from New Jersey.
So
let's quick take Joe, and then do that. And Don, we see you on the line. Please hang on.
We'll get to you next.
Joe.
Good morning.
Morning, Joe.
How you doing?
I'm doing fine.
How you what's going on out there in Jersey?
Well, no more snow, and I'm real glad about that.
For those of you who don't know, Joe used to be the co-host on the show, and he's now out in New Jersey working with American Atheists.
Yep.
So what about that? What about that traveling Messiah you told us about like 3 or 4 weeks ago?
That must have fizzled out. You know, we haven't heard from him.
Okay.
Shucky darn. Oh well.
No, it's fascinating. How do you know your God?
Simple. When I pray to him, I find I'm talking to myself.
Very good, Arlo.
If there is a God, I hope he's Peter O'Toole, because that would be the only cool God that I would want to worship.
Right. I just have one little thing from the British Freethinker, the Secular Humanist Monthly, and it's a story about a situation in San Francisco, oddly enough, but I'll take the news wherever I can get it from.
Sure.
This is about a parrot. A San Francisco woman is claiming her pet parrot is the reincarnation of a Tibetan monk.
I heard of this.
Speaking of reincarnation, animal communicator Jane Hollander says she discovered her 8-year-old African gray parrot is actually a reincarnated monk after the bird communicated with her telepathically in English, Cantonese, and Korean. Now the parrot is named Jing, and that parrot does more than parrot her speech. It telepathically offers advice and comfort to animals and humans.
Oh, right. This is a parrot that can't even talk, apparently.
Hollander says she says the parrot
God
wants
says I want a cracker.
God wants a cracker.
Right? She
Sorry,
says
Joe,
the parrot once telepathically told a teenager not to feel guilty about his friend's suicide because it was his friend's karma, not his.
Oh, wow.
Hang on, it gets better.
Boy, okay.
On another occasion, the parrot consoled a woman whose dog had just died by telling her the dead pooch had asked a finch in the neighborhood to keep an eye on my human.
Oh,
So-
well. That's
well,
good for the,
tried.
yeah. You can always rely on a
people.
Anyway, well, hey, great conversation. Hey, I'm having a little trouble getting you guys on spring.net.
Oh, not again.
Oh, dear.
What's happening?
It's showing CNN.
Ray is saying that he
It's
has...
showing CNN.
Hey!
Switch to the channel there, SpringNet.
Yeah, get back on the important thing. Ray
Okay.
says he's called them, so
Yeah, maybe
we'll
it's
get
just
that
my...
fixed as quickly.
hopefully that will be rectified. Darn.
Is this something that happens with other people?
We don't know. I mean, we have had...
We have no indication that SpringNet is intentionally messing with us.
Okay, but are you guys able to see that in the studio too?
No, not the internet link,
Why don't you
unfortunately.
get a laptop?
Why don't we get a laptop?
Well, there's a phone line issue and stuff.
Yeah.
I know.
It's problematic.
I'll buy you a laptop. How's that?
Oh, that's fine.
Wow, you're making a lot of money out there
Wow.
with American Atheists.
Yeah, that's
Ray's
what's
jumping
called-
up and down with waving his hands around. He wants it.
No, that's what's called a joke.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That's my joke for the day.
Sigh. Oh,
Darn, I
well.
was hoping turned out to be a lot of money.
So I guess that woman in San Francisco, I guess that's your classic Haight-Ashbury acid flashback going on there. She's
Well,
some
that's the
serious
place for
What is wrong with people?
PCP damage.
Anything else, Joe?
What's that? Oh,
Anything
no,
else?
thanks. I'll listen for a while on hold if you don't mind.
Sure thing.
Great
Great.
show.
Hey, thanks for calling, Joe.
All right, y'all have a good day.
See ya.
Okay. Let's
Interesting.
go to your talk today, which
All right.
is about what?
Atheism on the web.
Ah.
You see, about 3 weeks ago, I think Dennis Lubbe talked about atheist news groups. And while I personally found that kind of interesting, I was afraid it might not be very accessible to the majority of people who have either not heard of news groups at all or might find them intimidating if they actually stumbled across them. But I noticed that he didn't mention much about actual atheist websites that are out there, and I think most people either are familiar with the internet or know people who might be familiar with them and could show them some sites. And I thought it might be interesting because the web, as an environment where anyone can publish anything, is really a great big playground for people with like minds like us atheists. Let's see. I was originally going to place this list of links that I've got here on the Atheist Community of Austin webpage, but I didn't manage to get in touch with the maintainer, so I put it on my homepage, which you can actually look up while I'm talking so that you don't have to write down all of these links. There's just one link, which is coming up on the screen right there. I'm not sure if that's very clear. Here,
there you go.
Yeah,
how about this?
rglasser.home.texas.net/atheism.
Right.
That's pretty clear. Well, TV's like 30 feet away from us, so that's why it looks weird to us. But
That URL again is
rglasser.home.texas.net/atheism.
Okay.
So
I'll bring up links to the pages. You're
yeah, I've compiled a big group of interesting web pages, which you can then click on and see what they're all about. So the first web page that I've got is www.infidels.org. And this is my favorite website for atheists. It's called the Secular Web, also known as the Internet Infidels. And one of the reasons I like this site so much is that it's updated very frequently with new articles, so you could go to it any time and get a bunch of new material.
Yeah, that's where I pull a lot of the news off of.
Let's see, they do book reviews several times a month. The book reviews could be either books for or against religion, and the reviewers will have their own particular slant on whatever it is they're looking at. They have regular commentary on relevant current events and political issues. But most interesting of all, they have this great big library that you can look at. It's divided up into a historical section, which is works published before 1970, and a modern section, which is works published after 1970. The historical section contains a lot of great essays written by some of the most famous freethinkers in history, and that would include like Albert Einstein, Bertrand Russell, Mark Twain, a lot of people don't know he was an atheist, and Thomas Jefferson. And it even includes the complete text of 3 different books by Charles Darwin. The modern section is the part that gets updated frequently. These are authors who are mostly living today, and in fact the best part is that a lot of these articles actually have email addresses or links so that you can get in touch with the authors themselves and talk about the issues they bring up. They also have a mailbag page where they receive letters from either friendly, supportive atheists or irate Christians, and there's a lot of argument and debate that goes on, and it's entertaining in the same way that I find this show a lot of the time. So that's a good read.
So that would be www.infidels.org.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is all on the page that I brought up earlier.
Yeah, and can we have that back on
memorize
the screen
these
then?
links?
Just in case you're just tuning in, Russell has his website full of great atheist webpage links,
and the address is rglasser.home.texas.net.
Vic, yeah, here we go.
/atheism.
And that's going to come back up here on the air.
In a
so
minute.
in case you're watching us live and you want to also log on and do it simultaneously, there's the URL for that.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's leave that up for a bit, Vic.
Yeah, just leave that up there for now. We're not taking calls at this exact moment.
And Don, hang on. He's online. So we'll,
okay, infidels.org also has a big list of atheist humor sites, which is where I found this next website. It's called Kissing Hank's Ass. This is a really funny parable that somebody wrote. It was written by this guy who calls himself the Reverend Jim Huger, and the reason he calls himself the Reverend is that he came to his current belief system when he claims he had a personal revelation from God who told him that God doesn't exist.
This is a humor site.
Yes, okay. Although you have to wonder. Anyway, he's an interesting character in himself, but the best part of this, I think, is the Kissing Hank's Ass story, which I have actually brought a copy with me yesterday in case we have time to kill at the end.
All right.
Where I might read the first page or so. Basically, the story is about this billionaire philanthropist who likes people to come and kiss his butt. And if you do, he'll give you $1 million, but if you don't, he'll beat the snot out of you. The only slight problem is that nobody has ever seen Hank or his butt. And the only reason they know he exists is from this cryptic memo that he supposedly wrote a few years ago. So you can draw whatever conclusions you want about that. You can get there from the link on my homepage too. The URL for this page is a little complicated.
Okay. Let's go to Don, who has been patiently waiting on the phone for a long time. Don?
Good morning, guys.
Thank you. Thanks for waiting.
Yeah, that's all right. A little humor. I was visited by the Jehovah's Witness a couple days ago.
All right.
And I explained to them that I was an atheist.
Yeah.
And this young lady told me, she said, well, if everybody become a Jehovah's Witness, she said that we wouldn't have all these wars, we wouldn't have all these problems.
Yeah.
And I said, if everybody become Jehovah's Witness, we'd all be alike, we'd dress alike, we'd look alike. And she said, no. And I said, then there's no individualism. And she said, no. She said, we just wouldn't have any wars. And I said, praying for war, not to have wars. I mean, if everybody prayed, and you people said you prayed, and I was in combat for several years, and I said, I never prayed in a foxhole, and the guys that did pray in a foxhole, they never got out. So they never done anything. And she couldn't explain to me. But she was talking in general, that prayer got you everything you need. And I said, well, if you can show me one time that a prayer got you everything you need, I'll convert to your religion. She walked off the porch. She wouldn't stay here.
Well, she was right, you know. I mean, if everybody would convert to the same belief system, no matter what it was, they probably wouldn't have any more reason to fight wars.
Right.
No, actually,
it's not. The problem is not that people have different belief systems.
Yeah.
That is not what causes wars. What causes wars is people care more about their individual beliefs than they do about wanting to get along with other human beings.
Right.
That's the problem. I mean, that's that. If everybody had different beliefs, but they held the standard of getting along with other people, you know, in an equitable manner, to a higher, they held that higher than their own individual beliefs, then we wouldn't have a problem either.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's just like you was talking about the homosexuals having kids and stuff, and the family values. They're
not likely to have kids.
Yeah, but I mean, adopt kids and everything.
Yeah.
They don't want them to adopt kids, but they're not the ones that molest these kids. They're not the pedophiles.
Right.
It's these priests, preachers, and good doers that go to church. You know, they're the
family members are the number one. Family members are the number one sexual abusers of children.
So homosexuals, hey, the nicest people you ever want to meet, I think. And I'm not a homosexual, but I think they're the nicest people you ever want to meet. They don't.
Yeah, I mean,
it is. I mean, and it's just, you know, you spoke a few weeks ago about Christians isolating themselves.
Yeah.
And, you know, my best friend in the whole world is a lesbian. And it's just, you know, and you're right. I mean, there are probably jerks and losers in the gay community just as there are in the worldwide straight community, but you know, the ones that I know are great, wonderful people. I'd trust them with a child. I'd trust them with me. You know, if I needed help and if I was in danger or in trouble and if I needed a helping hand and a friendly hand, I'm no less likely to trust one of my gay friends than one of my straight friends for that. There is no basis. It is simply, well, it is, I guess, rooted in the Old Testament, you know, anti-gay teachings. But, you know, it's unfortunate because it's demonizing a group of people for no reason whatsoever other than you find their sexual preference distasteful, you know, and certainly, like, homosexuality to me personally is distasteful. I mean, I wouldn't want to do it, but I'm not going to hold it against somebody who, it's not a lifestyle choice, it's who they are. And it's about just understanding that. Yeah. You know, I mean, there are a lot of things that I find distasteful that other people do that, you know, hey, it's their right. And if you want to buy a Garth Brooks album, you know, go to. I mean, you wouldn't catch me, you know, dead doing that, but there are people out there who...
Any group of consenting adults who want to enter into a long-term committed relationship ought to be free to do that, and we ought to respect them all equally.
That's right. Just leave them alone. You know, go about your own business, do what you like to do, and nobody will bother you. And that's what I keep telling these people, but people just don't listen.
No, just, you know, stop minding everyone else's business.
Yeah.
Hey, if you like, come on down to see us at the bagel shop today.
I'm going to be down there.
Good. Okay. All right.
See ya.
Great.
Well, thanks Don. And I guess we also get to get some more callers in. Let's get the live phone line number.
Oh, that's up there.
Well, that's the voicemail number.
Oh, right. Can we have the call-in number up there, guys?
Yeah.
We are live. It's March 12, 2000. Sure, Ray is doing
don't hit us, Ray.
In the control room now because he wants it to be said that way.
That's right.
And call us and talk to us on the air. In the meanwhile, we'll get back to Russell and his talk on atheist websites.
Yeah, there's the phone number.
472-2255. Give us a call.
Okay, so I've gotten through a couple of atheist websites. Now, this next one is not specifically about atheism, but it is a general website on skepticism. It's called the Skeptics Dictionary. That's www.skeptic.com. It's like skeptic with a D instead of a T.
Or Skeptic Dictionary.
Right.
Right.
skepdic.com.
And you can get to all these websites that Russell is talking about by going to the page he has set up there.
rglasser.home.texas.net/atheism. The Skeptics Dictionary, as the name would suggest, is just sort of a big dictionary, except that instead of defining words, it defines some of those wacky, bizarre claims that people in the world are likely to make. Each article that you can look up will tend to fall in this specific format, where it begins by speaking in a pretty clear and objective way of what the claim is supposed to be about, in most cases actually providing direct quotes from the people who are pushing this sort of thing, and then it just rips it to shreds. He will give his own opinion about why it doesn't make any sense. He'll provide other links to other sites whose specific purpose is to debunk these claims. It's great fun to read. It's divided up into sections, so you have sections like religions, alternative medicine, paranormal and psychic, frauds and hoaxes. You can also browse right through the alphabetical index and just click on anything that catches your eye. And this is really a great example of why this particular book, The Skeptics Dictionary, is well served by being in an internet format rather than a book format, because it is heavily cross-referenced, so you can jump around to related claims at any time and see what kind of similar ideas are being promoted by these same people. So I've got a short listing of some of the hundreds of entries in the Skeptics Dictionary. They include God, UFOs, channeling, Scientology, Uri Geller, you know, that guy who can bend spoons with his mind, supposedly, the Bermuda Triangle, the Bermuda Triangle, and Amway.
A similar site that I'd like to mention, just while we're on the subject, is the Quack Watch page.
That's actually linked from the Skeptics Dictionary.
Great, so you can find this from there. That is a medical doctor who does a similar thing, but focusing specifically on alternative medicine and
yeah, he's got some general characteristics to watch for, indicating that a particular medical practice might be based on nothing at all.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we have the new Skeptical Inquirer has been released. This is the March-April issue, and this is a magazine you should all be reading, so do so.
No, you cannot say that.
No, I said you should be reading it.
Yeah?
I didn't tell
you have to get it somewhere.
I didn't tell him to go buy it. I just said go read it.
All right, I don't know how we're going to manage that, but okay.
Yeah. No, I was told that was okay to say that, to recommend and say that you should all...
I think I'll borrow that from you.
Yeah, all right, there you go.
Okay. All right.
No, Ray told me specifically, you can say you should read this, but you can't, you can't tell people to go somewhere and buy it. Anyway, but one of the articles on here in this issue is on the efficacy of medical prayer. And I won't read the whole thing, of course, but just the little introductory passage where it says a critical examination of claims. The landmark study of Bird and the recent confirmation attempt by Harris et al., both claiming therapeutic benefits of intercessory prayer, are shown to be invalid. One was improperly designed, the other fallaciously analyzed, and the two contradict each other. So just an example of some of the many interesting articles that are in this magazine every other month. Cool. So...
Okay, on to the next website. We have www.talkorigins, that's one word, talkorigins.org. Now, when Dennis 3 weeks ago was talking about news groups, I don't think he mentioned the Talk.Origins news group. That's really interesting. It's a good place to find just sort of a free-for-all debate on all kinds of subjects generally related to the origin of the Earth and life on the Earth and the universe, origins in general. It's typically more focused on the whole evolution versus creation debate, can get to be a pretty crazy place. Anyway, the talkorigins.org website is a repository for sort of the best of the Talk.Origins news group. And even though, I have to make clear, even though the Talk.Origins news group itself is open to anybody, and it's about equally populated by evolutionists and creationists, there's no question about which side these people are on. They are fairly clearly biased towards the prevailing scientific view that evolution is basically a correct theory and all that's not worked out are a few details. Let's see. So they do have an extensive fact page, which is frequently asked questions for you internet newbies out there. And these frequently asked questions cover all kinds of typical arguments, from carbon dating methods to well-known transitional forms that are cataloged. You know, anytime a creationist comes and tells you, well, if evolution is true, then how come there aren't any transitional fossil forms? Well, this website has pages and pages of documented transitional fossil forms, enough to choke your printer. So I don't know why they keep saying that when it's clearly false.
Well, they keep saying
it
because
they
just don't want to educate themselves in the field.
It's that isolationism again. They insulate themselves from the information that would tell them about these things, and all they listen to are other Christians, particularly the guys going around making it their business to convince all of their fellow Christians that evolution is not
exactly sensible. Another thing that they have are transcripts of some of those live creation evolution debates that occur around the country with those famous speakers like Morris and Gish. It's a really good place to go and brief yourself on standard arguments and their rebuttals if you're planning to get involved in one of these debates yourself. And I particularly have come to appreciate this website because I helped my stepdaughter with a science project with it recently.
Oh, good.
It had a lot of great documentation and quotes and timelines and pictures. And
boy, school science project, that could be a thing of the past if fundies get their way.
Do you have more news?
Not more news, no. I just two more paragraphs.
I do have a Rapture report.
All right.
And we don't have any calls at the moment. Our lines are all free. Call in, folks.
472-2255.
If we have gay people in the audience who would like to call in and talk about the gay marriage issue.
Because this is
the initiative just failed in California. We'd love to hear from you. If we got polygamists out there, any groups of people living together that think they ought to be able to get married, call in.
Or if you're a Christian and you think that you have a good reason as to why we should not like gay people, call and let us know, because we'd love to hear it. Yeah. Oh, suddenly the lines have lit like a Christmas tree.
All right.
Okay, that got it.
Well, we'll get to those calls in a minute. Let me do my Rapture report.
All right.
We actually got an apocalypse coming due today, this very day. So everybody keep your eyeballs peeled.
And it's on Fox Sports. No.
Boris Romanov and Albert Timoshev claimed to have discovered a repeating pattern of 54 days and 44 days between lunar eclipses that they claim was linked to major geopolitical events. The latest such event was scheduled for today, and of course we have the rest of the day. I'm not marking this failed yet until midnight rolls around.
Right.
But we should keep in mind these same guys predicted such an event for September 17 of last year, which did not come to pass.
Oh, and something also about today that you asked me to remember during the news, and I forgot.
Let's get to that as soon as I'm done with the Rapture.
All right, fair enough.
Okay, generically scheduled for some time this month. March 2000 or 2000. The Rapture is supposed to take place in March 2000, 3.5 years after Christ's second coming, according to Marvin Byers. Why he thinks
so
Christ
he actually came
3.5 years ago? I don't know.
So the Antichrist is 3.5 years old? He's a toddler?
I guess.
Okay.
I guess.
All right.
And a vegetarian.
It's funny because there's we have this other story which I'm not going to read today, but there's a rapture prediction that has the Antichrist showing up in like the 1400s and like building up his power between 1400 and 2000.
Yeah.
So they're supposed to have this like 600-year-old Antichrist and this wee little
this little 3.5-year-old. Oh well.
Anyway, on April 6th of next month, the second coming of Christ is scheduled according to James Harmston of the Mormon sect True and Living Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Excuse me, I read that wrong. The True Sect and Living Church of Jesus Christ of Saints of the Last Days. It's a splinter group, apparently. Also on April 6th, Ola Ilori originally predicted the rapture at or before the end of the Jewish Jubilee year on March 18, 1999. Immediately following the rapture, there was to be an earth shift which would, quote, crack the earth's crust like an eggshell, unquote.
Didn't notice that happening.
When it didn't happen, Ola explained that by using Israel instead of Jerusalem as the basis for calculating the Jubilee year, this is a quote, I believe I may have been off by a year. Therefore, Ola rescheduled Doomsday for April 6th.
So you can go back to Ticketmaster and get your ticket refunded for the original Doomsday, get a wristband for the next Doomsday.
Can you say Ticketmaster?
Good.
Also, on no specific date during the month of April this year, the Whites, a family of ascetic doomsday cults living in Jerusalem,
boy, that's creepy,
expect the end to take place in March or April after the Ark of the Covenant reappears in a cave. They claim that there was a mistake in the chronology of the Hebrew calendar. They're like all latching onto that one, aren't they? I was wrong before, but I'll be right this time, I swear. And that the year 6001 by the Hebrew calendar will begin this spring. In reality, September 11, 1999 to September 30, 2000 is the Hebrew year 5760.
Wait, they found the Ark of the Covenant. Wasn't that the first Indiana Jones movie?
They did, and it's in that warehouse.
Yeah,
so you guys watching a cave.
Yeah, it's in the prop room at Paramount.
I'm sorry. That was a work of fiction. But then so's the Bible.
Yeah, see? So what gets me about all these end-of-the-world prophets? I mean, what's in it for them?
Did none of these people ever read the little fairy tale about Chicken Little?
Chicken Little?
Chicken Little, right? Chicken Little is this little chicken goes around saying, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. Gets everybody to like agree and help do something. I forget the whole story. And then, when it doesn't happen, they all turn on Chicken Little and say, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
That's how it works, folks. You make these predictions.
They got eaten.
Yeah, that's right.
We make these predictions, and when they don't come true, people are going to call you idiots. And you know why? Because you are one. Idiots.
Okay.
But, you know, and again, like Chicken Little, the problem with the Chicken Little prediction, that the sky is falling, is that the sky is not a kind of thing that can fall. It's not a solid physical object hanging up there, right? And when there are problems like that with a prediction, you can safely discard the prediction, right? When you say that that the Hebrew calendar says is gonna, the year 6001 is gonna happen on so-and-so date. There are people who actually use the friggin' Hebrew calendar who know when the dates are, right? Who know how it actually works. If you make a claim and you're just flat out wrong, people are gonna call you an idiot before your prediction comes to pass or fails to come to pass, because they're gonna be able to look at your prediction and know that you're an idiot. These predictions are all about whipping people into a frenzy to get them to do one thing or another, to get them to buy your book, so you get your money from them that way, to get them to join your religion, to get them to cough up your dough in the collection plates at your church, for a wide variety of reasons. None of them have anything to do with actually warning people of real problems.
If the apocalypse really was coming, why not give your book away for free? It's not like you can take the money with you.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. What's in it? What if the world really does? I mean, what's in it for me?
We leave you with the cautionary words of Sister Marilyn Hickey.
God doesn't make people stupid. Sometimes I think people think that when you become a Christian, you become an idiot. That is so dumb.
Boy, she sure told us.
Wow.
It's not, and I want to comment on that little audio clip. It's not that Christians are stupid. people in general have to, thinking clearly, proper rules of reasoning, proper techniques for rational thinking are something you have to learn. Okay? People aren't stupid any more than you can say people are bad football players. Most people are bad football players because they never learned how, right? That is the issue. It has nothing to do with stupidity. It has to do with basic rules of critical thinking, which if you learn them, you will never fall for this kind of nonsense ever again. And you'll stop falling for whatever ridiculous religious notions you have swirling around in your head right now. We got some calls.
Yeah, and if you called earlier and hung up because please call back. We got 20 minutes left on the show.
We'll take this call and then we'll do more internet stuff. Hello, Wes.
Yeah, hi.
Hi. What can we do for you?
Well, if you believe, for example, that say illness was caused by demons.
Yeah.
And that's the way you went about trying to cure the illness. Let's pray to God. Let's exorcise these demons. You wouldn't have much of a chance of getting rid of the illness.
That's right.
Now,
except in the cases where those illnesses would have gone away naturally.
Well, right. But you didn't really, your actions didn't really cure them.
Right.
So, and a lot of illnesses don't go away by themselves.
And that's exactly the problem with strong beliefs based on faith. Because once you've done that, once you've got your strong belief based on faith that if you pray, the disease will go away, then if it goes away on its own, you want to take credit for it.
Sure.
Or if it was psychosomatic and you convince the other person that they didn't have a disease anymore because you prayed, then you take credit for it. You see, what you miss.
If it doesn't go away, you didn't pray hard enough.
Yeah, especially when you're talking about a God who works in mysterious ways, which is what these people have faith in. That's an excuse not to notice when your prayer has no effect whatsoever.
Power of faith compels you.
It's an ideological mechanism that serves the purpose of allowing people to just continually convince themselves more and more and more that they're right, instead of actually looking at the evidence.
And a lot of people think that what you do is just a matter of bashing Christians, that you don't believe in what they believe in, so you want to put them down without a real purpose. You get this from some people that why even if you don't believe, what's the harm in believing if it's a benign kind of thing? But the problem is that we have a whole series of problems in the human experience that need to be addressed, and they're not properly addressed throughout society because of the interference of these faith-based kind of organizations that get in the way of
right.
kind of real
the thing about this sort of faith is that although it might seem benign at first, it rarely does turn out to be that way. Particularly when religion, well, I was going to say organized religion, but even disorganized religion, it has this tendency to just sort of spread and spread and spread itself. And particularly in Christianity, there is a specific agenda. I mean, a part of being a Christian is that you kind of have to go around, or you feel an obligation to go around and spread the word, and attempt to win new converts to the faith. And the problem with that also is when you take a belief like that requires that you win new converts over, and you include elements in it like, but this group is bad, and this group of people's bad, and this group of people's bad, and that group of people's bad, then you come up with something that is extremely dangerous. And so, it's not the individual people that we attack when we come on and poop on Christianity, unless, of course, the individual people are doing things that are phenomenally stupid. Okay,
well,
but it is the belief system that allows this kind of stupidity to perpetuate itself, rather than people allowing themselves to use their reason and learn the proper principles of critical thinking.
Yeah, and it isn't just Christians we talk about. We talk about Christians the most because, hey, check it out, our country is immersed in Christianity. Right?
Yeah, that's what most of them are. But a lot of people that aren't truly Christians or don't really believe in, say, supernatural themselves, they tend to say, yeah, but why can't you let them go on because they do good things like charity, and what's it going to hurt to pray or go to church? But there is major damage being caused to the society by some of their belief systems. Just for example, that there is something nasty or perverted about sexual desire.
Yes.
You know, or there is something terribly wrong about nudity.
Yeah.
You know, and so you make those kind of issues can cause severe damage to a society.
Oh yeah, well, Christianity has, starting with the Catholic Church and you know, moving on through history and other dominations that came up later, has essentially all been about, the first thing you have to do when you have an unbeliever is you have to break them down, sort of mentally and psychologically. And the way you do that is you first inculcate guilt. You teach them you're a horrible, worthless sinner and you're going to burn in hell because you do these things and you think these things and you do this and you do that. And a lot of times that does tend to hinge around a person's sexuality because, let's face it, sexual pleasure is a very, very intense human experience. So it's an easy target for a belief system that wants to, you know, guilt trip you into adopting some sort of supernatural set of codified laws that really just don't have a basis on anything except to perpetuate the religion itself and keep it in power.
Yeah.
So, you know, once you have broken somebody down by feeling guilt about their own bodies, you know, that you know, then that's as low as you can take them. Then you insert God back into that little, you know, hole that you've dug inside them and build them back up. And you often hear, like on Trinity Broadcasting, which, you know, I watch, well, not a lot. I mean, there's only so much of it I can take, but they have their youth programming on that network, and you know, and there are always these programs about abstaining from sex and don't have sex until you're married, and they throw around phrases like emotionally loaded phrases like sexual purity and things like that, and how this and if you're that, and if you do that, you're a better person than all of your nasty friends who go out and drink beer and get laid. But here's the thing, okay, if an individual wants to remain celibate until marriage, okay, that's fine. That's your choice, it's your body. You have the right to make that choice. But the choice should be based on something, you know, intelligent. It should be based upon a growing maturity, a feeling of comfort with your body and with your sexuality, okay? It should be based on something like that. But what Christianity is trying to do is it's trying to make the teenagers scared of their sexuality. Okay? And admittedly, there are things out there in the world like AIDS and venereal diseases and things like that that are legitimate fears. But the sexuality itself, lust itself, these are things that they're being taught are bad, scary things that you can't do and you'll go to hell if you do them. You know? And that is, but if you're married,
they are scary and weird and you know, creepy to people because we don't talk about them.
Yeah.
Because we're in this culture that says, "Whoa, you can't talk about sex," right? So nobody knows anything about it, so it's scary and it's the unknown. And of course, people are afraid of that, but it's a vicious cycle.
You know, and I have met people who are now well into their mid-20s, who are still virgins, and they're virgins not because it's an intelligent choice based upon, well, you know, I'm just going to wait till I'm married, and that makes me feel most comfortable. They are still virgins in their mid-20s because they are scared of their sexuality. Particularly, these are women. They are scared of having sex. You know, that's not normal.
Well,
okay?
I think there's a whole gamut of behavior, and a lot of it shows up, you know, in your teenage years when you start to, you know, you start to go through a lot of changes, and you're looking for answers, and then you get answers from organized church that equates your thoughts and behaviors with demons and devils and being a sinner and these kind of things, and at a time in your life when what you need is guidance and help, and you don't need confusion. You don't need additional confusion. You don't need to be told that that's Satan getting into your head.
Precisely.
And therefore there's something wrong with you. And if you can't get your mind right and think like a good Christian's supposed to think, well, then you're smart.
Or believe like a good Christian.
And I mean, how many teenage suicide is caused by this misinformation?
Well, here's the big irony. And that is the one thing that is out there that could be out there to get rid of all the stuff that's going on among young people in culture that Christians hate, and you know, and frankly, you know, smart people should hate too, which is venereal disease, AIDS, unwanted pregnancies, abortions, what have you. The thing that would prevent that would be something that they are wholeheartedly against.
Education.
Comprehensive sex education in the schools.
Sure, how can you be against that?
They're against it because, well, first off, it's a control issue. I'm sorry, Jeff, I'll let you get to it. Go ahead. It's a power issue, okay? Remember, the church wants to have this authority. And so what they are thinking is, if the school system, if the secular school system starts instituting sex education, what it's going to be is just some wild, long-haired, tie-dyed shirt hippie, bringing reefers and condoms to class going, woohoo, let's party, they think it's going to be encouraging kids to have sex. That's what they think school sex education is going to be. They want it all to be based on Christian doctrine, and this, of course, incidentally, would now be another avenue to introduce Christianity into secular school systems. So that's what they want, So that's why they're against it, because they want to do it, and they want to do it their way to have their power. Go, Jeff.
Getting back to one of the first things you said, caller. When people ask, well, what is wrong with those other people believing whatever it is they believe if they're not doing any harm, right?
Right.
And my response is, it's okay to believe anything you want, as long as it happens to be true. If you believe a thing that isn't true, well, that's what's wrong with it, right? That whether that immediately leads to any kind of serious consequences or not is not the issue. That is irrelevant. People should not believe things that aren't true. That's like what knowledge is all about. People should believe things that are true and not believe the things that aren't true. And they should be concerned enough about that to refrain from believing in things about which they are uncertain. They should hold back and try to figure out if it's true or not first. On some kind of rational basis before they go embracing belief in things that may well turn out not to be true. And that's where all of these problems come from. What we need in this country, here's my recipe for fixing the United States of America, okay? Stop fixating on indoctrinating children into following these arbitrary rules, particularly the ones that are based on supernatural premises which have never been proven, and start fixating on indoctrinating children in basic rules of critical thinking. Teach children to think for themselves and let them go.
Yeah. And that wouldn't be indoctrination, that would just be education.
Well, right.
Yeah.
Sure, there will still be kids who will choose wrong things. There will be kids who are just not capable of handling, thinking for themselves. That will happen. But it'll be so much better than the situation we've got now.
Yeah,
they'll at least an improvement.
They'll at least have some ammunition,
You've had some callers before ask, especially Christians, ask, what is an atheist organization for? What good could you possibly do when all you are is non-believers? You have no positive message. You're just disbelievers.
But see, that's the mistake.
We have positive messages.
I think we have
our positive message is something other than, hey, there's a God.
Right.
Yeah.
They think that since for anything to be good, they think that there has to be a God behind it, making it be a good thing.
Well, if it's their God.
Right.
Right, yeah, and their God's
and so they think that if you don't believe that there's a God, then therefore nothing can be good.
Well, I think...
And no. Good is a value judgment we as human beings impose on stuff.
I think the most important role that your organization, your types of organizations could play is pointing out the damage that these kind of this kind of organized religion causes, and then in specific areas. And when you point that, most people are rational and reasonable to some extent. They've just never been exposed to the idea that, hey, this is not a benign thing. This actually causes harm.
Sure. Yeah.
And if they're shown in specific ways where it causes harm, then a lot of people are going to have to rethink the whole issue.
Well, we try, but it's a serious uphill climb.
Yeah, it's difficult. When we pick an issue like gay marriage, right, and we say, well, here's a place where Christianity is causing harm, hard to make any headway with Christians who've already been indoctrinated in the belief that gay marriage must be bad.
Yeah, Leviticus 20:13.
Because they're not going to recognize that that's harm.
Yeah.
They're going to say, well, but my cosmic space pixie that I worship said that it's bad for men to marry men and women to marry women. So it is bad, so it's not harm. We're saving the world.
Yeah. See, that's the whole thing behind this weird group that wants to convert gays back to heterosexuality. which of course, I mean, all my gay friends just find phenomenally offensive. But anyway, that's yeah.
Hey, there are things about me that I'd like to change, right? So I don't think there's anything wrong with the idea of, if some guy can figure out how to change somebody's sexual orientation, I think it's a service you could make available to those people that want to use it, right?
Yeah.
But it should be because that, I don't wear my safety belt as often as I should, right? I would like there to be a way for me to change my behavior in that way. And if there are people out there that think that about their sexuality, that's a service you could provide, but it ought to be based on what they really want, and not what they have been told they're supposed to want by some authoritarian religious organization based on the premise that there's this God whose existence they can't prove.
Yeah.
Well, I think the fact that so many Christians call you is evidence that you are making progress, that you do say things that get under their skin and
hope springs eternal
somewhat.
Yeah. Well,
thanks for your call.
Thank you for calling. We got 5 minutes and 2 more calls. Thank you.
Do you want to? Can you quickly just list them and maybe not go quite out so much? Yeah, we got 2 more calls on the line. Please, folks, stay on the line. We were going to get to you, but I want Russell to have a chance to finish up.
All right. I've given 4 pro-atheist sites. These can be found at rglasser.home.texas.net/atheism. In addition, I've also included 3 from the other side. One is www.bible.com, which is where you can actually read the Bible and look things up in a searchable, in a search engine, which is pretty useful. The second one is www.chick.com, C-H-I-C-K.
That would be Jack Chick.
Jack T. Chick
the tract
Publications.
guy.
Yeah, he draws little comic books where cartoon sinners see the error of their ways and sometimes end up going to a stylized cartoon hell.
I'm collecting all 5 million.
Well, you can start on the internet because there are dozens of these tracts printed on this website.
Wow.
And boy, that's hours of fun right there. And finally, www.capalert.com, C-A-P-A-L-E-R-T. CAP stands for Child Care Action Project. And this website is a bunch of Christian movie reviews. I don't mean reviews of Christian movies. I mean reviews of everything, even the really, extreme R-rated ones like South Park, reviewed by a fundamentalist.
Oh, I'd love to see how they thought about that movie.
You do want to look at that one.
Oh yeah, when it's God's the biggest bitch of them all.
Let's take these last few callers. We got about 3.5 minutes left, and let's just take your comments quick. Michael.
Yeah.
Hi, what can we do for you?
Well, I guess I'll narrow it down to my first question.
All right.
Sorry.
It seems to me that it's illogical to believe in atheism as well as believing in any other faith.
Okay,
it's
we will
more
respond to
logical
that.
to me to have no belief and to have a history.
Okay, we'll respond to that. Thanks for your call.
Thanks.
Okay. There are various definitions of atheism. And the one that most atheists use, if you ask them, is atheists are people who do not have a belief in God. They are not people who assert that they have the same kind of positive belief in the non-existence of God as Christians say they have in the belief of their God. Okay? If you don't happen to believe in God, you're an atheist. Contrast this with agnosticism, which is really a statement about what you think is knowable. And there are atheists who will say that it is possible to logically determine that certain gods, based on their definitions, are internally inconsistent and therefore impossible by definition. But if there's people on some island in the South Pacific worshiping a totem pole and they say that's their god, sure, we think that exists. So I wouldn't be an atheist with regard to that god.
But it's just a pole of wood.
I'm atheist with regard to gods that don't obviously exist, like the Christian God, for example. Yeah. Let's go to Angie. We got 2 minutes. Angie?
Yeah, I just have a quick comment.
Would this be Angie with Darren? I'm just curious.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
I just have a question. Why are you picking out the most extreme situations and saying Christians are bad because they don't like education for sex education? I mean, not all Christians are that way.
Okay, we'll respond to that. Thank you for your call.
We understand that, Angie, and mainstream Christians, usually we don't have a great deal of criticism. Although we do think that their belief system is untenable.
It's what I said earlier. It's okay to believe whatever you want. It's perfectly okay to believe whatever you want as long as it happens to be true.
Yeah.
As soon as you start believing things that aren't true, particularly when you strongly believe in them, like the way that Christians go around with this faith thing, where you latch onto it absolutely and cannot even tolerate the idea of opposing points of view. It makes you nervous just to hear opposing points of view, then that will inevitably lead to some kind of problems.
Yeah.
Maybe not the real extreme ones. We pick the extreme ones because they're obvious examples.
And
but
they
all
also
all beliefs that do not happen to be accurate lead to problems.
We don't think that Christians are bad. We just think that they're misinformed.
That's
and
right.
they haven't learned how to think critically.
Thanks for watching, folks. We're down to 15 seconds.
Okay.
We're going to be meeting at the Hot Jumbo Bagel Shop right after the show near the corner of 5th and Lavaca. All atheist-friendly people are invited to come down there and hang.
Bye-bye.
Bye, Austin.
Bye-bye.
Christians, we don't hate you.
We just think you're wrong. And we might...